Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and the verdict is in on Season 5 of Diablo 4. Are we continuing with the trend of the odd number seasons being poorly received, or did Season 5 break the curse? We'll dive into that. In this weekly gaming news video, we'll also talk about the mystery in Diablo 4 that's been finally solved after a year of sleuthing, how Blizzard and another dev as well are moving to work on smaller game projects, and the reveal of Titan Quest 2, the sequel to a beloved ARPG. But before we move on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, NordVPN. A VPN is an important tool for keeping your data secure and encrypted on the internet. And I don't dare connect to public Wi-Fi without first enabling my VPN. Be it on a phone or a laptop, in an airport or at a cafe, I turn on my protection before connecting to that public Wi-Fi. You never know who may be snooping around trying to steal your personal data. Because that Wi-Fi network named Cafe Free Wi-Fi can actually be anyone using their phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot to trick you into connecting to them. Turn on your VPN, and now your data is getting encrypted before going out. You can also use a VPN to get around region-blocked content by picking a server in a different country, and NordVPN has thousands of servers worldwide. And it's so user-friendly that you're basically one click away from hiding your IP or browsing the web from a different country. And one account lets you connect up to 6 devices, be they computers, phones, tablets, you name it. So, take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. Right now, when you use my link, nordvpn.com/Rhykker, you'll get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 additional bonus months. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/RHYKKER, or click the link in the description below. Alright, diving into the news, starting off with Diablo 4. Season 5 kicked off with a bug. And a lot of us didn't notice immediately. Unfortunately, we didn't get the benefit from it. Basically, you started off the season with any temper recipes you already knew from Season 4, or I guess Eternal Realm. And this was not meant to be the case. You were supposed to have started from scratch with temper recipes in the same way you have to farm up all your codex from scratch. Now the Diablo 4 team confirmed that they're not going to act upon this season. They're not going to roll anything back. They're not going to fix this bug or error or whatever it was. But next season, they will. We will not start with those tempers. We will have to farm them up once again, because it was never intended to be the design that we start with them. Now, do be sure to check out my Ultimate Season 5 guide on how to use those temper recipes to just destroy the first capstone at level 20. That's what I did on my second character. And if you haven't picked a class yet, I've got my tier list video as well that goes over some of the top builds for each class. I started with a Barrage Rogue, love Barrage, super fun. Now I've been working on a Lightning Spear Sorcerer, really fun as well in a different way. What about you folks? What class and builds have you been trying out? Now the temper bug wasn't the only bug that was actually helping players out at the start of the season. Reports started to come in from players who were jumping from like level 60 to 100 or sometimes even more, just instantly. And they couldn't really understand how it happened. They were like reporting their findings and it's like, oh, I finished this stronghold and I just jumped to level 100. And other players were trying to recreate those conditions. Like, oh, this stronghold is bugged. Let's go do it and also jump 50 levels. And then it doesn't work for them. And eventually, what was realized was, all these players were rogues. And all these players had found, they were lucky enough to have found the unique item, the new unique rogue item, the Umbracrux. This is a really cool item that I use on my Barrage Rogue, although for whatever reason I didn't get that bug to happen to me. But regardless, the Umbracrux, it spawns a shadow totem, and when you attack the shadow totem, it's this thing that's attackable, you're able to target it. The damage you deal to that shadow totem then spreads around to nearby enemies. So it seems to register as an enemy in the game, much to the detriment of your teammates. They're seeing something on screen that looks like it's an enemy, so they keep attacking it until they realize, oh, it's just your stupid shadow totem. But regardless, probably what was happening was because of it registering as an enemy, maybe when it would despawn or if you would attack it or something, maybe some XP was being allotted for it, and some enormous amount, probably an infinite amount of XP, honestly, under some rare circumstance where damage being dealt somehow was being attributed to it. And if I had to guess, that's what was happening because Blizzard temporarily disabled the Umbracrux's unique power to summon the Shadow Totem. while they worked on a fix. And since then, after was a day or two, they hotfixed it, they re-enabled the power, and everything is back to normal. But then a third bug was also kind of helping players. At some point, rings and amulets started dropping much more often than any other loot, like significantly more often. The devs worked on a hotfix, they pushed that through as well. But honestly, this was helpful, especially early in the season, because a lot of aspects can only be found on rings, and those are pretty expensive to gamble for, so it was a nice way to hunt for aspects. But outside of these bugs, which again didn't really take anything away from the seasonal experience, and if anything, made it more exciting for people, especially the free tempers, this seems like possibly the most successful Diablo 4 season yet. I mean, Season 4 was the biggest change for the game, with Loot Reborn, for sure. And that was definitely a bigger season than this one, but I was thinking that Season 5 would be a small season, especially since it just felt like they unleashed everything that they had in Season 4, and they just would have nothing left in the tank. I mean, especially with Season 5 being a short season, only 2 months before we're going to get Season 6 with the expansion. And we've sort of had this cadence that the odd number seasons just haven't been as well received as the even-numbered ones. But now, seems as though this curse is broken, because Season 5 is another winner. Because after we had the Season 5 PTR, the test server, I was concerned for Season 5. There were a number of issues, and I didn't think they could be adequately addressed in time for Season 5 launch. And yet, here we are. The game's state of balance was a problem, with barbarians dominating everything and sorcerers feeling pretty bad. Well, now with the huge balance changes they've made since PTR, sorcerers are looking great right now, and barbarians, even though they took a serious nerf, they're still looking great without completely overshadowing all the other classes. Fingers crossed. Rogues feel great, Bone Spirit Necro feels great. I'm not seeing as much love expressed for the Druid this season. I haven't tried one yet. I know the Landslide build is fun and should be performing well, but since the Druid wasn't elevated as much as the Sorcerer, it's looking like the least popular option right now. I think the issue is that pretty much every other class has at least one build that makes you feel overpowered. Like you're breaking the game, and maybe the Druid isn't quite there yet. But nonetheless, on a preliminary basis, it seems like this may be the best state of class balance the game has been in yet. There's still work to be done, there always will be, but right now no single class seems to be reigning supreme, again, yet. We'll see after another week or two. Then the other concern I had from PTR was the Infernal Hordes, the new game mode. And it was a game mode that I really liked conceptually, but I was very concerned that most people would not enjoy it. But the changes that they've made since PTR has resulted in the Infernal Hordes being tremendously well received by players. It's chaotic, frenetic fun, it's fast-paced, big monster density, lots of stuff going on, events, different monsters, and then at the end they really ramped up the rewards to be excellent and satisfying, and I'm honestly really impressed with how much the devs were able to respond to player feedback in such a short amount of time. Are the Infernal Hordes perfect? No. There's still improvements to be made, sure, especially in my opinion with regards to the choices of the boons and banes, but for now, it's being carried by the strength of how fun the gameplay itself is, and, you know, that's fine. Then, something I really love about Season 5 is the reworked unique items. Back when D4 released, I believe a criticism I had in my review of the game was that items aren't all that interesting or exciting, but now between the tempered affixes that were added in Season 4 and the new approach to uniques in Season 5, I think itemization is really getting to a good place now. Same disclaimer like everything else. Is it perfect yet? No. There's still yellow and blue items that need to be addressed and all that. But again, big step forward, and further refinements can always be made. Oh, and the fact that all the new unique items also offer new transmog options, yeah, that's a nice little bonus. Then the Season 5 story quest is probably the strongest one yet. It's almost like an epilogue to the main story, which is great. The other seasonal quests felt kind of disconnected and ultimately irrelevant to the greater story of Diablo, especially Season 1 and 2. Season 3's story was more enriching to Diablo's lore and a nice surprise for Diablo 3 players, soul and cool and all that, but Season 5's story feels like the natural result of a living, breathing, evolving world. Then the return of the reputation track is great, and they further improved it as well. Now once you've maxed out your reputation, you basically get infinitely repeatable bonus levels for a bonus cache of loot. So basically you like repeat the last level up over and over, not for a resplendent spark, but just again, bonus cache of loot. Then all the new quality of life changes and additions are fantastic. You can disable the vulnerable indicator. You can resummon ladder bosses without having to reset the dungeon. My goodness. Wow. Altogether, it feels like a lot of us can now agree D4 good. Again, still room for improvement. Nightmare dungeons, while improved by having their middle rooms removed, great change in Season 5, they're still generally a pain point for a lot of people. Since they're needed to level up glyphs, you have to engage with this. Lots of people are asking for an alternative way to level glyphs. For instance, if you could get glyph XP from Infernal Hordes, just make it less efficient. I'm sure a lot of people would rather just run more Infernal Hordes and take longer to level up their glyphs rather than go back to Nightmare Dungeons. And I think as more activities get added to the game, giving players choice is a good idea, not locking any one reward behind any one activity so that players who really don't like the main activity of a given reward or just really prefer doing something else and they're willing to take an efficiency hit in the interest of fun, that they have those options. For instance, we have now the addition of the Infernal Hordes as a way to get pit materials. That seems to be appreciated by many players. The tuning may not be quite right now. It's seeming like it's actually more efficient to get pit materials from Infernal Hordes. But hey, they just were introduced this season. It's okay if they're maybe a little bit too juiced. Things could always be rebalanced down the line. Now, it could also just be that Nightmare Dungeons just need some love as well, from a design perspective. They're probably one of the first game systems that were designed. Now we have pits, we have Infernal Hordes, and all these newer systems were designed for what D4 has become, not for what it was intended to be at launch. So maybe it's time for Nightmare Dungeons Reborn. We had vaults in Season 3, and those were preferred as a way to grind out glyph XP, right? Traps aside, just as a way of grinding out your glyph XP at the end, people largely preferred running vaults to Nightmare Dungeons. Then one pain point that I'm seeing introduced this season, compasses are clogging up our inventory. We either need to get compasses of the same tier to stack on top of each other, or they should just drop as materials and let us craft our own compasses. Since we can craft our own compasses, in case you're unaware, same place you craft Nightmare Dungeon sigils. But I turn the question to you folks. What do you think of Season 5? Sound off in the comments. Because something really interesting happened last week. A mystery in Diablo 4 was solved. Or perhaps just started. Who knows? Way back around D4's release, a ring was data mined in the game files. The Ring of Misfortune, which gives plus 13 to a bunch of different stats, lucky 13. And its legendary power is that on lucky hit, you lose all your resource. No advantage. The lore description reads, a seemingly ordinary ring, but wearing it fills you with dread. Now, this cursed item was only ever data mined. No one, seemingly, had ever gotten it to drop. Well, until now. Users from the Not Finding a Cow level Discord, a Discord server dedicated to finding the secret cow level in Diablo 4, managed to figure out the elaborate steps needed to get the Ring of Misfortune to drop. And this is the sequence of things you need to do. First, you need to collect an item called the Lucky Coin. You get the Lucky Coin to drop by looting the body of an NPC who has been slain by a monster. Basically, you see these events periodically throughout the overworld where a monster is slaying an NPC. Before you loot that body, though, you want to be under the effects of a Greed Shrine. So, click on a Greed Shrine, you're under the effects, it's not run out, you click to loot the body. Now, apparently you're not guaranteed to get the coin to drop. It seems as though stacking lucky hit chance helps your odds. Then, once you get this coin to drop, you need to find a specific well. This is a well that, you go to Carragher, the main town hub in Scotland. You exit to the east into the region known as the Downs. You're going to head towards the northeast end of the region, a bit west of the Old Stones dungeon. There's the well there. And if you have the lucky coin on you, you'll be able to interact with this well, tossing the coin into the well, and this will earn you a title, Well Wisher. But you want to wait before doing this. You need a party of 4 people plus 1 extra person, and everyone needs to be on a different class, and everyone needs a lucky coin. Now, thankfully, it seems the coins are tradable, so you can farm up 5 coins for your entire group, but you do need a group of 5. So first you party with 4, since 4 is the max party size. You all head to the well. How do you get a 5th person there? Well, you kick 1 person from the party. That's not going to kick them from the instance. They'll still be there. They just won't be in the party. And then you invite a new person to the party. They'll arrive, and there's your 5 people. You don't have to be in a party. You just need to have 5 people in the instance. And then you all toss your coin into the well. And once you have those 5 people of 5 different classes toss their lucky coin into the well, hellfire will rain from above. And each of you who tossed a coin will get a ring of misfortune to drop. Or so the legend goes. Now, there's some theorizing that this is somehow connected to the secret cow level, which the search for it has reached a dead end in, I think it was early season 3. Now, my personal speculation is that the secret cow level, everything that is discoverable has been discovered for it. It's stalled out because we're waiting for the expansion and then we'll get an update. Some people think that this lucky coin and this ring of misfortune are somehow tied to the cow level. I think it's just a separate thing. We're not seeing any indication to suggest they're at all related, just that it's a secret, hidden kind of thing. But I think it's just a separate, secret, hidden kind of thing. But what do you folks think? And then on our last Diablo 4 update, we got yesterday a bunch of Warcraft cosmetics added to the game. Skins for a rogue Sylvanas, a wizard Kael'thas, a sorcerer Kael'thas, a barbarian Varian Rin, and more. And I'm not just advertising shop cosmetics, this is just a follow-up on last week's story about the data-mined Frostmourne asset, which I had predicted would be added in a World of Warcraft crossover event. Now, Frostmourne has not been added to the shop. There's no Lich King set or anything like it yet. So I'm going to hold on to my theory that there is some kind of upcoming WoW event in Diablo 4. And if you want more details on all of that, check out last week's video where I describe explain why I do believe we're getting this event, because we basically had the same event in Diablo Immortal where you can earn a Frostmourne skin. Now, speaking of World of Warcraft, we got a new motion comic cinematic for the War Within. And after the very atmospheric but ultimately vacuous announced date cinematic we got a couple weeks back, this one is full of story and lore. And I won't go into spoilers, but for those who saw it, did it not remind you of a certain Warcraft cinematic from a long time ago? Sound off in the comments if you can guess which one I'm talking about. It's probably my favorite Warcraft cinematic ever. And speaking of Warcraft, according to a report by Windows Central, Activision Blizzard has created a new team within its studio to work on AA titles, basically smaller scale projects within Blizzard's existing franchises. As a reminder, this is basically how we got Hearthstone, by Blizzard greenlighting a small team to make a smaller scale game in the Warcraft universe. As per Windows Central, most of this new team consists of people who've been moved over from King, because it's Activision Blizzard King, ABK. King, the developers of Candy Crush, we often don't talk about them, but they've been part of ABK for a long time now. And the entire reason for this endeavor is actually, or allegedly, at the request of Microsoft, who wanted to explore smaller projects. AAA games are expensive, and it's not a place where you want to take risks. So, who knows what creativity will now be unleashed with this new, smaller scale initiative, and whether they'll be mobile games. And Blizzard isn't the only company doing this, going for smaller projects. Last week, in an interview with The Guardian, FromSoftware president Hidetaka Miyazaki said that they don't plan to make a game bigger than Elden Ring for the foreseeable future. He added, quote, "Perhaps having multiple projects is the next stage, where some of the other younger talent can have the opportunity to manage and direct game design for a smaller project." But then you have Larian, the developers of Baldur's Gate 3, who are working on 2 new RPGs simultaneously, and they are not small games. CEO Sven Vink, in an interview with PC Gamer, said, quote, "The machine is meant to make large games. We were made for making large, ambitious RPGs and to try new stuff." He added, quote, "We actually know what we want from our gameplay systems, how to evolve them, how to do new things, and they're all big." Larian's team has grown to almost 500 devs, and after the huge success of Baldur's Gate 3, there's gonna be a lot for their next title to live up to. I'm rooting for them. Lastly, we got a trailer for Titan Quest II last week, and I was completely whelmed by it. Titan Quest was a classic RPG. The devs went on to make its spiritual successor, Grim Dawn, which ranks among my top ARPGs. And when I found out Titan Quest 2 was in the works, I was hesitant. Yes, I want to see Titan Quest 2, but this is being made by a different studio, not the people who made Grim Dawn or Titan Quest 1. I'm not saying it's gonna be bad, it's just an unknown. I need to be made a believer that this will live up to Titan Quest. And after watching the gameplay trailer, I gotta say, I have not been convinced. The graphics look good enough, especially the character models look really good. I love the character designs in particular. I love that whole era of our history and its mythos, and they capture that really well. We also get a brief glimpse at some skill tree that looks promising, but outside of that, the trailer was just very lackluster. The animations look stiff and distinctly of AA quality and not AAA, and it likely is a AA budget game, and there's nothing wrong with that, that's totally fine, but this is going to be competing with Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2, and so it needs to lean on and showcase its strengths, and I just think the trailer does not do a good job at getting people excited or hyped. Other than saying, yeah, Titan Quest 2 exists. And if you're a Titan Quest fan, you're probably excited. That's all you really needed to see or hear, but it's hard for anyone else to get excited over this trailer. I do hope we get a better, sexier trailer that really showcases the game's strengths. A trailer that will sell the game to the greater ARPG audience and not just Titan Quest fans. We don't have a release date yet, but the Steam page says coming soon, and the YouTube video has a tag with THQ Nordic 2024, so possibly by the end of the year. And that's going to wrap up this week's video, but do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discussed the possible Warcraft event coming to D4. Thanks for watching, special thanks to my supporters. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.